changing your life one story at a time. This is the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast with Editor-in-Chief Amy Newmark.
Hey, it's Amy Newmark with your daily dose of Chicken Soup for the Soul inspiration. It's Thoughtful Thursday, and that's the day when I share a story with you that gave me new perspective, a story that made me stop and think. These are the stories that stick with me for years and that I keep telling over and over again to my family and friends. I am so lucky that I get to be exposed to all these stories. We get thousands of submissions for every one of our books, and we have to narrow it down to only 101 that we will publish. So you can imagine how much these are the cream of the crop. Today's story is one of the 101 that made it into our book called Chicken Soup for the Soul, Food and Love. It's a very cool book that contains favorite family recipes, ones that real people can make, and also the stories behind those recipes. And I think that talking about food and love together in a book makes a lot of sense, since we all know that cooking for the people we love is one of the key ways that we show them how much we care. Even people who can't say I love you out loud, they try to say it through their food. So, how do you use food to connect with your stepdaughters when they lost their beloved mother to lung cancer at a young age? You do it by cooking her recipes. And that's what Gina Guilford tells us about in her story called Getting to Know Jennifer. Gina married a man named Zeke, and she became the new mom for 3 little girls. And these girls had only been 4, 5, and 8 when their mom died. Gina found a wonderful way to connect with the girls and to help them know their late mom, too. What she did was she pulled out Jennifer's cookbook, which was a dark blue vinyl 3-ring binder. You can just imagine it, right? Neatly organized into categories like appetizers, vegetables, seafood, poultry, meats, desserts, and then stuffed, of course, with newspaper clippings, recipes typed on paper, handwritten recipes, all gathered from newspapers, magazines, from going to someone's house and saying, hey, can I have the recipe for that? And Jennifer had written on each recipe where it came from. So Gina could figure out who the various friends and relatives were in her husband's past who had contributed to what she was going to be making now for her new husband and her new daughters. It was all beautifully organized, and as Gina went through it, she felt like she was getting to know Jennifer, her predecessor, who she had already seen in her photos to have been a happy, beautiful young wife and mother who had been lost so tragically, so young. Now, Gina and Zeke, when they got married, had bought a new house together, so all of Jennifer's decor was gone. Her collection of ceramic cats, those photos that showed how beautiful she was, her books. The only thing that was really left for Gina to get to know Jennifer was these recipes. And so as Gina went through this recipe book, more and more she got to know her husband's first wife. Gina says, I felt an inexplicable sadness for the brief life of a woman I never even met. And she also noted that many of the recipes had made their way into this blue binder after Jennifer had already been diagnosed with lung cancer and was living through chemo and radiation. She even had put in recipes and plans for dinner parties. She was planning to throw dinner parties even that late in her cancer. And Gina says that she grew to admire Jennifer's optimism and her zest for life, saying, she gathered these recipes because she planned to live, love, and cook, despite the unlikely odds. So Gina decided that she was going to make Jennifer's daughters many of the recipes that their mom never got to make for them. And I actually featured Gina's story on a PBS special that we made a couple of years ago that was about food and family and love. And we showed lots of really heartwarming photos of Gina and her stepdaughters in the kitchen, cooking Jennifer's recipes, along with photos of that blue binder that was stuffed to the gills with recipes and notes. Gina ends her story by saying, I will carry on the legacy and cook the foods that Jennifer cannot, because this is what we do. We carry on in the face of uncertainty. We put one foot in front of the other, even when it doesn't feel possible. And we plan dinner parties for the future because it gives us hope and happiness. In our next podcast, you'll meet my friend Robin Presnall, who is a woman who was on a quest for a purpose to her life until she realized that she had already found her purpose and had been doing it for years. You may have seen Robin on Animal Planet or on other television shows, making the world a better place for thousands of abandoned dogs. I'm Amy Newmark. Thank you for listening to the Chicken Soup for the Soul podcast today. I'd love it if you would help me spread the word by telling your friends. You can also rate the podcast on our iTunes page. And if you'd like to read more thought-provoking, life-changing stories from the book that we talked about today, Chicken Soup for the Soul, Food and Love, then please go to our website, chickensoup.com.